When we came to Norway, we imagined ourselves as temporary transplants. Extended stay visitors. Vagabonds, really. Which, it turned out, is a romantic way of describing the fact that we've moved a lot.
During our first 3.5 years in Bergen, Darcy and I have lived in 3 different rental homes. Not because we're trying to shake our family, but because we've been looking for a house that feels, well, right.
What are you working on?
Like Goldilocks, we tried the options one by one. Too dark, too damp, too many stairs.
Okay, buddy.
And along the way, we discovered just how much home is about more than square footage and charm.
In time, renting someone else's house wears thin, and you crave something permanent, a home that's uniquely your own. However, that dream of buying a house, it can feel overwhelming. As an expat, you're faced with 1,000 questions. Where do you start? How do you do it? What do you even want? The only truth is that you don't know what you don't know. And all you carry with you are the lessons learned from each rental home. And I guess from binge watching Tid for Hjem. Side note, while Darcy and I have lived here for 3.5 years, I want to say up front that my Norwegian language skills are awful. Please be warned that this video will include me mangling the occasional Norwegian word or phrase. I'm hoping that you'll be amused rather than outraged. I've chosen to include them because I think they're important to the story. So here you go. You now have permission to get a laugh at my expense.
Our first place in Bergen was found in a hurry, rented sight unseen. There's a bit of a catch-22 when you're new to Norway. You can't rent without a bank account, you can't get a bank account without a personal number, and you can't get a personal number without an address. Think of finding a place in Bergen as a bureaucratic escape room, only wetter. Fortunately, we found a landlord who understood our dilemma and would take a chance on us. In August 2021, I landed in Bergen with a few suitcases. 2 months later, Darcy followed with the dogs and a lot of questions. Foremost in her mind, would this be a permanent move or a 2-year adventure? We weren't sure.
You're home.
Before leaving Seattle, we packed a pallet with the essentials. A few kitchen tools, some winter coats, bedding, and the like. The shipment was supposed to arrive in August. It finally turned up in October, 2 months late. The house itself was fine, a yard for the dogs and room for our things. But it sat at the base of Lofsdalen, one of Bergen's 7 mountains. Or 9, depending upon who's counting. And while Bergen's gray skies are legendary, we quickly learned that where you live in the city has a lot to do with your daily allotment of sunlight. You imagine afternoons basking in the warmth of the summer sun. However, we were shocked to discover that our house was in the mountain shadow by 4 in the afternoon. Welcome to the dark side. Seasonal affective disorder was no longer theoretical. It was personal.
Therefore, 10 months in, we moved again.
By now, we were familiar with the drill. Organize and pack, rinse and repeat. We were shocked at the amount of stuff we'd accumulated in less than a year. The dogs had finally settled into a routine, only to have us pull up stakes. Ruby watched the entire process with curiosity, not entirely certain what was going on. Honestly, moving sucks. It was a week's work to get everything sorted out. Even though this rental came with furniture, we were compelled to make it our own. tchotchkes, family photos, things you have to dust, stuff that makes you feel less like a guest in someone else's home. Unsurprisingly, moving day started early. We were less than thrilled. I don't know anyone who looks forward to countless trips loading boxes into a rental van. Our life here in Bergen has been framed by the hills. The terrain impacts not just your travels through the city, but our everyday life at home. This house is on the side of a mountain, which means stairs. Down from the second floor, up from the basement, and up 2 flights to the sidewalk from the front door. We were moving into the top floor of a 3-story building in Skansen, a sweet neighborhood perched just above the city center.
Clean. Oh, they left us a bottle of wine.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
How sweet is that?
Yeah. This is going to be it's tough to figure out where we put things. I guess we could just start staging in the kitchen.
Well, did you go upstairs and see what's going on up there?
I can move the office stuff up there. There's room up there. It's going to take a while.
When we were deciding whether or not we were going to rent the apartment, I failed to consider the stairs. Lots and lots of stairs. What we presumed would be a one-day move turned into 3 days of hauling boxes up a stairway to Valhalla. The endless hours of huffing and puffing were a clear reminder that we're no longer in our 20s.
So if we get super tapped out,
Yeah.
we can always get a van tomorrow.
Yeah, every time I come up those stairs, I think, I don't know how I'm
Yeah, me
going to do a second load today.
Yeah, those suitcases just tapped me out.
Despite the stairs, moving to the sunny side was worth it. Skansen is magical. We completely fell in love with our life above the city.
What do you think? Is it me?
Not bedazzled enough.
The change from our first house was so positive that Darcy decided to share highlights of daily life with family, creating a video postcard pointing out our neighborhood's charms.
Good morning. Today is March 1st, 2023, and I'm standing above the city of Bergen, and I'm with the dogs. It's about 8 in the morning on a beautiful morning, and just as I said, below me is the city of Bergen. So we are above Bergen right now in the neighborhood that we currently live. This is Skansen. It's got water. It's a little, maybe 6 inches deep. And it freezes in the winter and the kids can ice skate on there. This is the brandstation, the fire station. I think it was built in the 1800s, and they have a lovely view of Bergen when it's burning. This is our little street. This is where the locals are. There are a lot of tourists that are in Skansen because it's on the pathway to Hjem, which is a very big tourist attraction. Right around the corner is our lovely building that has had scaffolding on it since the day we moved in. It was supposed to take 2 months, and now it's been over a year. I'll let you see another very nice viewpoint that at night when I take the dogs out, when I take them over here, you can see it's just lovely. And we've had 2 nights of northern lights, aurora borealis. We were looking at the northern lights, nordlys.
Life here illuminated the importance of proximity. Floyens Forest was 5 minutes one way, the city 5 minutes the other. We walked everywhere. And for the first time in a long time, we felt like part of a neighborhood. We recognized faces on the street. People said hello. Our neighbors decorated our door for birthdays. It felt like home. We knew from the start that our time in Skansen was temporary. Our landlords were sailing the Atlantic and the lease was for 14 months, just long enough to finish my research at the university. It was a tidy bookend, stay or go, Bergen or Seattle.
I'm guessing that you already know the answer because, well, that's what the series is about. We wanted to stay. But with our lease ending and needing time to find and buy a place, we needed a landing pad.
Consequently, we would need to move again. Only this time, we paid someone else to do all the heavy lifting. We'd learned our lesson in Skansen.
In a few days, we move. Our third house in Bergen in 2 years, and I have to be honest, I am going to miss life up here more than I ever expected.
You have mixed feelings when you watch someone else move your stuff. There's appreciation that you've avoided the heavy lifting, but it is tinged with guilt that you're not helping. Okay, not a lot of guilt, but it's there, somewhere, in the background, way in the background.
Very good. Excellent.
The move was to a flat near the university in a neighborhood called Høyden. Technically, we were back on the dark side of town, but without Lovestaken looming overhead, it didn't feel quite so gloomy. I'll be honest, Høyden wasn't love at first sight. The area is dotted with student housing and feels more like a place you pass through than one you settle in. But as time passed, it began to grow on us. The old houses, the cobbled lanes, the low murmur of student life, and the not-so-low murmur of Vorspiel and out-of-tune karaoke. It had charm, just not the kind you notice right away.
That's how we got here. 3 homes in just as many years, each one teaching us something about this city, about each other, and about the strange, sweet alchemy of building a life in a foreign land. We didn't come to Bergen thinking we would buy a home, but we're here now and ready to commit to our life in Norway. Buying a house in Norway isn't just about picking the right paint color or figuring out how to pronounce eierskifte forsikring. Eierskifte forsikring. Eierskifte forsikring.
Eierskifteforsikring.
Eierskifte.
Eierskifteforsikring.
Eierskifte forsikring. It's about navigating a new culture with old habits. It's about adjusting to a radically different system. And it's about taking a leap, not because you know where you'll land, but because this is where you belong.
Our point of reference for buying a house is framed by our experience in the U.S. There, the process follows a common sequence of events. You browse Zillow in your pajamas, flag a dozen listings, and then spend a few lazy weekends touring homes at your convenience with a real estate agent who may or may not have snacks in their car. In Norway, it's not the same. Here, the home buying journey begins with Finn.no. I like to think of Finn as the Norwegian Craigslist, Zillow, and Facebook Marketplace all rolled into one. It's where you find everything from houses, to jobs, to boats, to, well, I'm not exactly sure what this is. We spent hours scrolling listings and translating phrases like moderne funkestil and Jorda til det eget, which, it turns out, really means bring a hammer. When you find something interesting, you reserve a spot at something called a visning, a scheduled open house that usually lasts for 2 hours on a weeknight. Think of it as speed dating, but for property. Don't expect an agent to guide you from room to room, pointing out the features and directing you away from that weird stain on the carpet. It's just a house, a crowd of quiet Norwegians, and you, awkwardly trying to test a toilet without making a scene.
And here's the kicker. Usually the bidding starts the next morning. It's fast, it's fierce, and it's legally binding. In the US, you can back out of a contract by paying a contingency fee. In Norway, if the seller accepts your bid, congratulations, you own a house, or a very expensive mistake. It was becoming abundantly clear that here in Norway, you can have cold feet when skiing, but not when buying a house. With that in mind, it was time to start looking.
Our first visning was a house on the side of Sandviksfjellet. The view was amazing. The access, less so. Because we don't have a car, we weren't sure if we were buying a home or a probable heart attack. Next came a place in Kronstad, where the bones were beautiful, but the renovation budget would have been horrifying. A home we saw in Kalfarveien had great light, historic charm, and an unfinished bathroom. We decided to walk away from this one. The flat in Sandvik was an older apartment in the hills above the city. The view was brilliant, but the water damage on the floors and doorways threw up a red flag. The Visning in Fjellsiden had character, a classic Bergen wood-clad building, and a crowd. The place was swarming. It had all the earmarks of a looming bidding war. An apartment in Media City had upgrades, but was too small. This home in Skansen was a classic hip-roof Bergen home in our favorite neighborhood. The house was full of traditional charm and contemporary upgrades. Unfortunately, the modern minimalism look just didn't feel right. Then came another trip to Kalfaret. Massive space, beautiful wood floors, balconies, but the bedroom was in the dining room, and it would require too much work to upgrade the attic.
None of these homes were bad. On the contrary, most were lovely. They just weren't for us. The focus of these visnings was doing our homework. We were still learning, and we weren't ready to enter the fray, at least not yet. Each visning helped us understand what mattered: light, layout, and a living space that had a little history. One Friday, a listing for a house in Høyden popped up on Finn. Darcy was packing for a 2-week Hurtigruten trip with her mom. Unfortunately, the visiting was scheduled for the following Wednesday, long after her planned departure for the Arctic. She figured it wouldn't hurt to call the agent for a private showing. The good news? He was showing the apartment in 15 minutes. If we could get there fast, we could tag along. The better news, it was only a block away from our current rental. We were there early.
When we stepped inside, it dawned on us. This one had potential. The living room and dining room were breathtaking. High ceilings, original hand-painted crown moldings, plaster rosettes, tall windows with the pale February sunlight pouring in. It felt like standing in a forgotten ballroom. And then there was the rest of the house. The walls had been stripped bare. It looked like someone undressed the place and forgot to put the clothes back on. The kitchen was the size of a galley on a fishing boat. The second-floor toilet looked like something out of a Nordic noir prison scene. And upstairs, the dormer window appeared to be a high school metal shop project. There was a hallway sink with exposed pipes and a triangular mirror. At the top of the third-floor stairs, there was a makeshift plywood door that looked more suited to a garden shed than a stately 19th century home. Then there was the experience of stepping into the blue and white bathroom. It felt like visiting an athletic club changing room high on LSD. But still, somehow it felt right. This place was strange and scarred and full of promise. It had a voice and a story to tell.
The following Monday, as Darcy sailed north, I walked through the house a second time, this time with our carpenter Torstein. We weighed the quirks, we discussed the potential cost, and then made our decision. Darcy and I were going to bid.
Honestly, I was genuinely anxious about making a bid, not just because the process was fast and foreign, but because technically, I wasn't exactly certain we were allowed to. As non-permanent residents, buying a home in Norway comes with a few extra layers of uncertainty. Financing isn't guaranteed. Some banks won't even consider you. And those that do, they want documents, lots of them. Proof of income, tax records, investments, education, residency status. Also, you can get a finansieringsbevis, a proof of financing document you need before you buy.
Before we started this process, we had tracked down all the required paperwork, and we talked with every expert we could find. They all said we were good, but you're never quite sure. You just keep reminding yourself that you don't know what you don't know.
Then there's the way bidding happens, on your phone. Competing offers are texted to you from the listing broker with a 30-minute window for you to respond. It's all in Norwegian, and it's legally binding.
You imagine that there'll be little time to think, just a vibrating phone, a rising price, and the constant fear that you're either about to lose the home or accidentally spend way too much.
I placed the bid on Tuesday, the full asking price, 2 days before the bidding would start. It was a bit of a chess move. I figured if they could see we were serious, maybe it would scare off the bargain hunters. The asking price seemed a little low, so we hoped it might give us the edge.
Well, I won't lie, I'm nervous. The process of looking for a house is so daunting. And I think it's hard enough for Norwegians, but buying a house in a new country where you don't understand exactly how the systems work, the cultural expectations, the process is a very steep learning curve, at least for me. I want to get this right. Having never been through the bidding process and being on my own, that's a little overwhelming.
Darcy was at the Nordkamp Visitor Center, surrounded by the North Atlantic and frustrated with the sketchy cell service. I was in my home office with my phone in one hand and a bidding spreadsheet in front of me. I couldn't help wondering if this was a bold move or a very stupid one.
The worry I had carried around about a chaotic bidding process was not coming true. There were no counteroffers, no flurry of texts, no indication at all that someone else was interested. I started to wonder if maybe I'd done something wrong. Maybe I hadn't logged in properly. Maybe I misread the instructions. Going into this, Darcy and I knew we needed a plan. We had agreed on where to start the bidding, how to counter, and most importantly, our absolute limit. I could only imagine that she was standing on a street in Høyden, staring at a strangely quiet phone.
And that's my broker. Olaf, how are you?
We had hired a broker to help shepherd us through the process. Mostly, I think his job was to talk me off the ledge.
First of all, I'm just, have you gotten any indications or messages regarding other bidders as of now?
No, nothing whatsoever.
And to be quite honest, I do think that our tactic has been good so far. And also the fact that 49 minutes before your bid is going out, there's still no one else.
I kept thinking, I hate not knowing exactly how to do this. But here we were, with 49 minutes left on the clock, and still no bids.
You probably will get a call soon. Before that, you don't have to do anything at all. You can just sit still, and then we'll see how things evolve.
Thank you for checking in.
Of course, you keep it posted, okay?
I certainly will. Thank you, bye.
Thank you, bye.
I guess we'll see.
With Darcy more than 2,000 kilometers away and limited to sporadic cell coverage, the only way I could keep her informed was by text. A phone call just wouldn't go through. As the deadline approached, I let her know that the listing broker was actively trying to drum up competing bids. I wanted to be transparent, to set expectations, that even now, this wasn't a sure thing.
Chris calling you.
I thought so.
Hi. Listen, I just sent out a little notice. There's one more person who would like to live in Høyden.
Yes, I saw that.
They put an offer in, gave you 30 minutes.
Yep. I'll get together with Darcy and see exactly how she'd like to respond. You don't go into this sort of process unless you want it. You know, you do get emotionally attached.
Hello, Drew. What are your thoughts as of now?
I knew the next move, but before acting, I wanted Olaf's take on timing. Wait and hold or respond right away?
So should I put it in immediately or should I wait a few minutes? What's the best?
Immediately.
Great.
Just,
Okay.
Play the power move.
Okay, will do. Thank you. I'll let you know.
Of course. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. I don't know. I think if I'd been through this before, it'd be a little easier.
The other buyer came back with a counter to my second bid. Now it was my turn. Go up a lot or just a little. They were sitting at a round number, and it might have been their ceiling. Darcy and I still had room. So I only nudged it.
Hey, Olaf.
Hi, Drew. I was in another call.
I knew that. That's why I texted you.
That's very good. So I totally agree with your plan. Time limit 12:30. That is yeah.
Perfect.
Right away.
Yep.
Time limits
Will do.
12:30.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Now we wait, or we don't. Jesus, this is nerve-wracking. I've got 7 minutes left. Entirely possible that I've gone a little over and they don't want to go any higher. We'll have to see. But I gave them till 12:25 and it's 12:19 now, so down to 6 minutes. Hey, look at that! They accepted the offer. We bought a fucking house! God, that was a lot of work.